Dear friends, in this session, we would be discussing a bit about indoor air quality. Indoor air quality refers to the air quality within the building structure. Within the building structure, and we might also like to include a bit of around the building structure. And especially, this is important to the occupants, to the health and comfort of the occupants. So understanding and controlling the common pollutants indoors is what is the indoor air quality. So we would be spending some time on this concept of indoor air quality in our program of clean rooms, indoor air quality and filters in HVAC systems. So there are three strategies if you want to control the indoor air quality. One is the source control, other is ventilation, and third is the use of filters. But before that, why do we need to improve the indoor air quality? This is because there are substantial studies which says that the indoor air pollution has a significant effect on the occupants. They might include irritation of the eyes, the nose and throat, headaches, dizziness, and fatigue. Okay, so these are the immediate effects which one might feel, the occupants might feel if the indoor air quality is not good. The productivity of the people working in the indoors is adversely affected is one thing, but there are also some long-term effects as to it might affect especially the repeated exposure might affect the health of the individuals staying indoors, and that might include severe respiratory diseases, even heart diseases, and the diseases like cancer. So it's prudent to try to improve the indoor air quality in our homes as well as in our offices. And there's substantial literature available. If you do a study on what are the important pollutants, apart from the pollution of contaminants which we discussed, there is substantial literature available, and this literature also points out the pollutant sources and that effects on the health. For example, there might be the pollutant sources like tobacco products. Then there might be some combustion appliances which burn the fossil fuels. It could also be some building materials and furnishings which are used indoors, because those building materials and furnishings might lead to indoor pollution, especially because of deterioration of the materials, deterioration of the insulation. Then there is a possibility of excessive moisture indoors, and there could be the emissions even from the central air conditioning systems, both the heating and the cooling systems which people employ for comfort. So even that might contribute to the indoor air quality degradation. There could be outside sources, outdoor sources, and the outdoor sources could be the emissions from the automobiles. It could be the pesticides which are being sprayed around. It could be radon. Okay, so all these hazardous substances, they might enter the room and they might affect adversely the indoor air quality. So this indoor air quality, if one has to control, then we need to employ certain strategies, and those strategies are: one is the source control, other is ventilation, and third is filters. So we will be discussing them one by one. So the major intervention in improving the indoor air quality could be called as what is known as source control. So this is the most effective way to improve the indoor air quality, and this is done by eliminating the individual sources of pollution or by reducing the emissions from those sources. So these sources, like for example, asbestos, this can be sealed or enclosed. And if there are, for example, some stores which emit the gases, they could be simply shifted to some other place. Okay, so the sources are enclosed or separated from other environment, and that does reduce the requirement of diluting the indoor air. So most important aspect in indoor air quality control is you need to identify the source of contamination and you need to control it so that the need for other methods of improving indoor air quality, they are minimized. Some examples could be like, for example, if there is a moisture source through roof leaks or there is a rain penetrating through the leaky windows, and this kind of source control has to be done before attempting the other intervention method to improve the indoor air quality. Let us now discuss the other and the most important method for improving the indoor air quality, and that is ventilation. What is ventilation? Ventilation is the deliberate attempt to supply the outdoor air, fresh outdoor air, inside the room or inside the space which is to be whose quality is to be controlled. So the entire idea is to dilute the indoor air to a level of acceptable indoor air quality. Now, what is the assumption in this? The assumption is that the outdoor air is more fresh, the outdoor air is less polluted, and when you send that outdoor air, the fresh air inside the room, the quality of the room would increase. So this is the idea of diluting the indoor air, and this is this method, that is the indoor air quality control through minimum ventilation requirement, is recommended when there are mechanical systems like HVAC systems put in place, but they can also be utilized in some passive systems, like just by simply opening the doors and windows or having ventilators at your homes. Even if there is no HVAC system, one can make sure that there is improvement in the indoor air quality. But all this would depend upon the quality of the outdoor air. Why the word minimum ventilation requirement is used over here, we need to understand that the minimum ventilation requirement is a critical aspect in the design of the indoor air quality systems. If you supply more air than minimum ventilation requirement, that would add up to the energy costs. So, ensuring that the ventilation is more would give you more freshness, but that is going to add to the energy cost, the electricity cost for operating the HVAC system. Okay, so the optimum has to be worked out as to what is the ventilation requirement to make sure that the indoor air quality to the acceptable standards is maintained. Now, how do you get as to what is the standard, okay, and how much is the minimum ventilation standard? So for that, we need to refer to some professional organizational standards like ASHRAE standard 62.1. In the building codes, there is a table which lists the minimum ventilation standards. ASHRAE standard 62.1 can be purchased from ASHRAE, and there are other standards which different countries, especially the HVAC systems organizations, the professional organizations, they adopt, and one can easily refer to those and decide upon the minimum ventilation standards so as to maintain the indoor air quality. While this approach of keeping the ventilation standards to improve the indoor air quality is good, but that is not enough. That is, Both these methods, that is source control and minimum ventilation standards, are important, but they need to be complemented by what is known as the cleaning of the air by using filters. So filters are crucial to control the indoor air quality. So as I said, the traditional means of dealing with the indoor air quality in HVAC system is through ventilation with the outdoor air. And this approach assumes that the outside air is clean, it is not dirty. But if the outdoor air is dirty, if it's of poor quality, then insufficiently treated ventilation air actually would make the indoor air quality worse. So in that scenario, what needs to be done? And why is that the outdoor air quality poor? So the poor outdoor air quality is because of vehicular pollutions. The internal combustion engine, they emit the flue gases from the tailpipes, and that would cause the pollution, okay, the contaminants. And then there could be some contaminants generated by activities in the adjacent areas. So what is needed is we need to have filters in the air handling units of HVAC systems for maintaining the indoor air quality. Okay. Now, in order to know what are the best type of filters, we would be discussing the filters in quite detail, but this term we need to understand often comes very crucial. So that term is the minimum efficiency reporting value, or it is used known as MERV. M for minimum, E for efficiency, R for reporting, and V for value. So what is this? So this is a value which is used to describe the efficiency with which the particulate filters, they remove the particles of a specified size from an air stream. So in a way, it talks about the efficiency with which the filters remove the particulates. Okay, higher is the number, higher is the MERV value, higher is the MERV designation, better is the efficiency of removal of contaminants by the filter. Okay, so we need to go for higher values of MERV while choosing the filters if the contamination is more. For finer particles, one might go for HEPA filters. Okay, and we had a discussion on the filters which are used in clean rooms, and the HEPA filters are one of the important filters which are used to maintain the indoor air quality. Okay. These were the three methods. That is, you need to control the source pollution at the source. Then we need to make sure that the ventilation is appropriate by seeing to it that the air changes are good. And the third we talked about is by use of filters. Okay. Indoor air quality not considered during design and construction would cause many problems. So we need to incorporate the features of maintaining indoor air quality right from the design stage. Now, why is that so? Because the basic design decisions like that of site selection or orienting the building or locating the outdoor air intakes, and by designing the HVAC system for that, okay, and the ventilation, these are critical to maintain good indoor air quality. If we take bad decisions regarding site selection or locating the outdoor air intakes, or by poorly designing the HVAC systems, then the indoor air quality would become more costlier to maintain. It means that you need to put in more systems to clean the air, and that would be costlier. Not only the first cost would increase, but also the energy cost would increase. Other important aspect regarding the indoor air quality is to make sure that the filters which we talked about, they need to be operated and maintained efficiently. Because what happens is that if you put the filters and if the dirt accumulates, then this dirt accumulation in the ventilation systems combined with some poor management of water can lead to biological growth and serious indoor air quality problems. So these conditions generally result from very inadequate levels of particulate filtration. This might happen because of poor filter maintenance, and this might happen because of the problems with the cooling coil condensate, the problems with humidifiers or other sources of moisture. So you see that moisture coupled with dust, the moisture coupled with dirt, that becomes a dangerous combination, and we need to make sure that the filters are not clogged and they are properly maintained in order to make sure that the indoor air quality is at acceptable levels. And finally, in the next class, we would be discussing a lot about what types of filters are to be used to get rid of contaminants. Okay, so these three important things, that is source control, then making sure that the ventilation air is proper, and we would be spending some time on how the ventilation air is defined by air changes per hour. Okay, and then the types of filters, these three things would ensure that the indoor air quality is maintained in all the applications, and more so if the application is a very critical application like clean rooms. Okay, so thank you very much. Bye for now.